Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown. We are continuing our conversation about hope during the Caring Conference, and I'm thrilled to have two sisters. This is the first time we've had sisters present together, so they're going to help us when we didn't sign up for this. So welcome to Natalie and JJ. Thanks so much. Take it away.
Thank you guys so much for having us. When Denise asked us if we could go a little bit longer, 50 minutes, we absolutely said, no problem.
No problem.
So
we know how to talk.
So hopefully you guys will stay with us that full amount of time. We'll get started. Our sign up is our topic rather is I didn't sign up for this. I'm JJ.
And I'm Natalie.
Yeah. And with our sister Emily, we are the Elliott sisters.
So we're gonna before we get started going into this, I work in the mental health field. I've worked there for over 24 years now. And I'm a big fan of starting any meeting or starting trainings with a regulating kind of activity. I know that you guys have been sitting for the last hour. We took a little bit of a break. Denise was on the listen to message. We have no clue what Illinois is going to do with her. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's see if I can. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started with a regulating activity. We're going to take 60 seconds to help us kind of get centered again. And the best part is that everyone can do this, because if you can breathe, you can do this.
Yeah.
And so this is one of my favorite focus attention practices. This is what we call them. And so here's the directions. This is a resource. It is great for you to use for yourself. It's great for you to give to others. And so we're going to do mentally, I'd like for you to draw a box, and you're going to draw a box and you're going to go all the way around. And so for 60 seconds, you're going to draw a box in the air mentally in front of you, and you're going to breathe in for 4 seconds and breathe out for 4 seconds. So as you breathe in for 4, breathe out for 4, breathe in for 4, breathe out for 4. And it is a way to help, again, get you centered, get you regulated, because our bodies love to be in a good, calm place that feels safe. And that will help you get ready to receive the information. So I am going to start the ticker. And so if you want to turn your screen off, do what feels comfortable to you. I like to typically do this with my eyes closed, and I take a deep breath in. I've also heard it 4, 7, 8. But I typically,
we close our eyes.
We close our eyes, take a deep breath in, and I'm just going to guide us through this. And so feels comfortable. We'll do this for 60 seconds. So that's a calculator, JJ. That's not right.
We usually do this before we get on the phone with our mom. That's a good resource.
It is a perfect way.
Yes.
Jesus gets involved.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and start. So
yep.
I'm going to start mentally. And so I'm going to ask you to breathe in for 4 and breathe out for 4. Breathe in again for 4. Breathe out for 4. Keep doing that. Let your shoulders relax. Let all the worries wash away. The things that you're thinking about can wait. It's going to be okay. I didn't start my timer. I just mentally did it.
That's fantastic.
Figure it out. I got so stress response.
That's okay.
So I was just like, you know what?
We got it.
Do what feels right. That's what I'm
Yep.
always going to tell you. So that is a fantastic way when you're feeling like, oh, I need to get a little refocused. That is a great way to get you centered and present. And when you have moments that you're feeling overwhelmed, whether it's you yourself or individuals that you're working with, that moment of being present and feeling your body and feeling the stress in your shoulders. I can feel the stress in my shoulders. I don't know if how that felt to everyone else, but it's really, it helps me to be like, okay, I'm okay and I can move forward. Okay. So I love that thank you, Zach, for drawing an octagon. I appreciate that. You can, whatever shape feels comfortable to you.
Yep.
But I will tell you, this graphic is my favorite because honestly, I do walk around like everything is okay, but deep down inside, my sock is falling off. And we all know how that feels. Some days you feel like your sock is falling off, but you just continue to fake it until you make it. All right. Let's start the next shift.
So we're going to ask that you watch our 1 minute and I think 48-second video. And the reason is this will cover like 20 years of our lives and probably take off like, I don't know, 3 hours of our presentation. So this is how we're going to go to YouTube and tell you a little bit about us.
Okay. And let's see if this works. We're ready. I'm going to stop. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to flip my screen. Let's do this. Oh, there it is, Jay. That's the slide. That's the slide. Where'd my thing go? It's that one. Let's share here. Okay, let me know if you cannot hear. Let us know if you cannot hear.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. We can't hear. Zach can't hear.
Okay. So I know, can you hear me now speaking? I'm watching Zach. Okay. Then the audio needs to be turned on. That's typically the issue is the audio. Denise, I don't know if our friend can help us with making sure the audio is turned on. Because typically, share sound. Look at that. Watch that. There we go. Let's see if this social worker figured it out again.
Zach, shake your head.
Wait, hold on. I'm not there yet.
I'm waiting for Zach.
Okay.
Hey everybody, I'm JJ.
And I'm Natalie.
And together with our sister Emily, we're the Elliott sisters, and we've got big news.
Well, actually, we have a secret and we're finally ready to share it. We are reluctant caregivers. Now, you may be asking, what is a reluctant caregiver? Well, it's not wanting to care for Jason, my husband, a cancer survivor, or our mom who's living with Parkinson's every day.
For us, the reluctance is from our own guilt, self-doubt, and the fear of disappointing those we care for and everyone else. Are there others like us? Yes. We believe our experiences can help caregivers like us by offering information, inspiration, hope, and a little bit of fun along the way.
So we're excited to share that we're starting a podcast. Well, and a website and a blog and a resource guide, and we're going to be on all the social media sites. Basically, we're kind of like the Kardashians of caregiving.
We'll be sharing our candid, unfiltered thoughts about the good, the bad, the ugly, and those completely ridiculous moments that come from being a caregiver.
I mean, there are some things you can't even make up. Don't even get us started on the banana pudding story.
And we'll have guests who share their own stories about self-care, helpful resources, navigating the healthcare system, and so much more.
We want to educate, inspire, and provide resources to people of all ages who desperately want to know how to best support their loved ones while maintaining their sense of self and sanity.
Now, we're asking you to do 3 things. Follow us on social media sites. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube. And of course, we'll be confessing on all the podcast sites. We place links in the comments below for your convenience.
Now, second, we want to hear your voice. Do you have questions? Ask them. Do you have your own experiences? Share them.
And third, tell everyone about Confessions. There are so many caregivers out there who need to know there's a safe place where they are seen, valued, and heard.
So, welcome to the sisterhood. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Okay, look at that. We're like nailing that one.
Okay,
Hold on a second. Let me get back here.
you're getting back there
I'm
to
getting
us.
back here. Hold on. And we're back. Hold on. Let me put the chat back up because I want
Okay,
to be able to see people.
okay.
Can you do all this?
Yes,
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
All
You
right,
go
I'm
for
ready.
it. Okay.
All right. So that's a little bit about us. So for today, this is what we want to kind of review with you guys. We want this to be interactive. I think that's really important. We love some chats. And so there's two of us. I have this awesome mouse. So I am fully prepared. Thank you. I love, you know what? You will always get more when you praise us. You
Yes,
just keep
that's
getting it.
absolutely,
It's like we are
yes.
shameless. We're like praise hoarders.
Yeah.
And so this is the thing. Our goal, and this is why we showed you the video, is to instill hope by giving caregivers permission
Right.
to share their thoughts and feelings in a safe and nurturing place. We want a judgment-free space where caregivers can feel their most authentic selves, confessing their truth without shame or fear of rejection. So our discussion, what we're going to talk about is one, who are caregivers. And I think people generally know about caregivers, but there's a little bit of a spin we want to do, and I think you'll appreciate it. Two, we want to confess a little. And this is
True.
where you really get to know us.
Yeah.
So we want to tell you a little bit about how we got here and what we learned along the way. And then lastly, our solution for a hopeful future. That's really where, we want to line in and say, hey, you've already kind of gotten like, hi, spoiler alert, you heard it, but we're going to go over it just a touch more. And so that way, you guys know a little bit more about what we're doing. And then of course, how we can move forward together to help others. And that's our goal.
Yep.
All right.
So who are caregivers? Oh, look, it's us.
Like we're the face right here.
Yeah. And now you get to see our youngest sister, Emily, as well. And on the right, you see our mom. An unpaid family member is who a caregiver is typically. So unpaid family member, a friend or others who support someone who needs care due to physical, intellectual, or developmental disabilities, a medical condition, a mental illness, or needs related to aging. So for us, for our mom, that would be her medical condition. She has Parkinson's, and then also she's getting older.
Yes. And for me as a caregiver, because I get double duty caregiver. For Jason, my husband was diagnosed with cancer back in March 4th, actually, and then also working with our mom. And we'll go into that a little bit later. But we wanted to just the kind of the purpose with this slide is really just to say, okay, this is who we define as caregivers. And let me go to the next one. So there's Jason and myself. That's how I really look all the time. Like the pandemic, I owned the no makeup. And when I was in New York, I'm like, you're lucky I brushed my hair. And I'm pretty sure I didn't brush my hair that day. Last day of treatment where we got to ring the bell, which was amazing. There's nothing like that. Thank you, Angela. There's nothing like ringing a bell. And so, so caregivers provide care because of a relationship and not because of his job or a career. I can tell you, in working in the mental health field, I have been a caregiver, a paid caregiver, supporting other people's children, providing services to make sure they are cared for, and being thrust into an unpaid family caregiver role is so different. And I really felt like it was God's way to say, you need to sit in some of your clients' feet and seats. Let's get a sense of who they are and how they feel, because no matter how much I knew, I was the subject matter expert. When you become a caregiver, especially for a loved one, it's like I stopped working from the prefrontal cortex. I'm just living in my limbic system with all the emotions and trying to make sure I'm doing the best I can. And so the one thing that I thought was really interesting is that this definition of caregivers does not include parents or guardians providing care to a child without a disability, a medical condition, or an illness. This is just your parents. Parents, to me, parents are parents. Sure. And but I do have friends who have children with disabilities, and that's the above and beyond extra that most parents don't end up having to manage. It's an additional layer of stress beyond your traditional parenting. Okay, I got a question mark from the Queen of Oz. Do you want to write a question? Because I want to answer that if you've got a question.
Sorry, I wasn't watching the chat.
It's fine. You're totally fine. I'm so used to this. I'm always on video. So if you have a question as you come along, I'll grab it as we go. Do you want to unmute?
Yes. What was it about taking care of a child that doesn't count or something?
No,
I
it's
mean,
not.
he's an
it's,
adult though.
Yes, now that's different. So what I want to say here is the definition. So we were looking at definitions of caregivers. And so this is the definition does not include parents or guardians providing care to a child who without a disability, medical condition, or illness. I have Sandra, who is a very good friend of mine. Her son has developmental disabilities, and she not only cared for him with his disabilities, but she cares for him full time into adulthood. So she is a mom and a caregiver.
Yeah.
She's double duty. Does that make sense? So it's really more for children and adolescents is where parents are kind of separated. They're trying to pull apart the definition of caregiver versus being a parent.
And one of the reasons they're trying to do that now is because of benefits, because of programs that they're bringing out. So for anyone that has a child and that child is just going to school, just a traditional role as a child, they're not calling them a caregiver. They're just a parent. But any type of disability, medical condition, or illness, then that's the additional role. And then you can qualify for benefits, for things that when we talk about resources, that's when you qualify.
Right. Does that make sense?
It does now. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, great. All right. And let's go on.
So how do you become a caregiver? So for us, there were 3 ways. So I'm the oldest, and I was recruited. It was kind of an obligation. I was always in charge. Our parents were really young when they had us. They were high school sweethearts. And so my mom, once she hit a level of Parkinson psychosis, we had to take some drastic medical steps to get her care. And so I was recruited for that job. Just kind of fell into place. So I was recruited, not really a choice, but just I did it out of love and out of my faith and obligation. I felt like that was what I needed to do.
Yeah, the other piece here, so whether you're recruited, people are like, hey, we really would like for you to do this. With you being the oldest, there is that built-in obligation. And then there's the second. So FYI, I'm the middle child. So I appreciated the middle child comment earlier. So as the middle child, I felt a touch drafted. And so related to my husband, I think about when people are drafting for the military, you're going in, there's only a couple of exceptions. Well, for my husband, for me, I didn't feel like there wasn't a choice. Of course, I'm going to do this. Of course, I'm going to support my husband. But to my surprise, finding out later, there are people who choose not to support their loved one. And I actually know someone that I've worked with that their spouse left during that time, during that crisis. And that breaks my heart, but I'm not here to judge. I'm here to say it's hard being a caregiver. I think we all know that. With my mom, I was a bit more of a draft dodger. And so I had 2 additional sisters. And so because of kind of the relationship piece of it, for me, it felt more of, I'm going to use my skill set to be able to support our mom. And we each of JJ, Emily, and myself all brought 3 different skill sets to help care for our mom.
And then there is the volunteer, and that definitely is our youngest sister, Emily.
Absolutely.
We say that she has a red line to God without any offense, but she really felt like this last step that we made to take my mom out into the community, back into her home. Emily felt like that she wanted to be the primary caregiver 24 hours a day. And so she volunteered for the position. She, being the baby, she still stood up and said, I want to do this. And so those are your volunteers. And I think a lot of times those are few and far between, people that raise their hand and say, absolutely, I want to do it. But she did it. So that's how you become a caregiver.
That's part of it.
That's part of it.
You're either recruited, you're drafted, or you're volunteering to do it. So then the other thing that we started thinking about is caregivers.
Yep. And
are you qualified? Are you qualified to be a caregiver? And the best part is, well,
you're qualified.
You're always qualified.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you're not.
Yeah.
So Jay.
Yeah. Education and experience. What do I need?
Yeah. So Jay, in order for you to be a qualified caregiver,
Mhm.
you need no education as evidenced by,
Yep.
and actually you need no experience.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
really, really neat how that works. I mean, if you're living and breathing, it's what it feels like to us. Like, we were like, there wasn't a job description when we were like, okay, we've got to care for our mom. What's the best way to do it? And a lot of times, it wasn't like, oh, JJ, you have the most experience dealing with Parkinson's. Nope, no experience there, really. We just knew what we had learned. And then, and cancer, no experience. And so it doesn't matter about, I can tell you this, it didn't matter about the fact I have a master's in social work, working in the mental health field. It didn't matter any of my my past experiences. It helped with navigating the system, but the reality is that it's overwhelming, and so requires no education or experience.
So as far as the hours, our question was, is it part-time? Is it full-time?
It's really neat. It really just varies from on case to case, Jay. So you'll be full-time, although it won't, even though JJ and I do not live in the same area as our mom. I live in Virginia. Jay lives in Florida. Emily and our mom live in Tennessee.
Right.
Emily is absolutely full-time because she is always there. We are always on call. So on call is required, Jay.
Okay, all right.
Overtime will be required. And we would encourage you to have a second job as well, because you're going to need that for resources.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And then I always say, I live the 5,000, miles away, whatever. So that's okay. And then I'm a female and a redhead. That's all okay.
Yeah, totally fine. So here's the interesting part that, we found, especially when you think about caregivers, race, like caregivers, in thinking about becoming a caregiver, we don't discriminate whatsoever. Anyone, any race. Gender is actually female preferred.
We see Zach.
I see Zach. Zach is representing. Is
Thanks,
there
Zach.
any other male in this group? If you're a male in here, thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So is there, if you're a female, press 1 in the chat box. If you're a male, put 2. Let's watch this. Let's do this. I feel like you can't see. I feel like you need to be on the right side.
Zach.
Oh, I see a lot of Zach. We saw, and look, notice how close we get. We're like, oh, we're like, what? Okay.
We need a bigger screen.
Okay. So here's
Zach,
the thing.
thank you for coming. Yeah, thank you.
So this is the thing. Caregivers, mental health field, human services field, predominantly female. And you think about, thank you, Zach, for being drafted. Me too. So it is a female dominated industry. And I think that has to deal with society's view of women's roles. Says it is culturally a woman's, that also depending on culture. And so I think that's really important to remember. And even if you go back 250,000 years, when we lived in, tribes, and you had the men were the hunter gatherers and the women cared for the children, and they cared for, and they did the food and things like that. But as society has evolved and women have entered the workplace more consistently, we entered the workplace and we still kept becoming primary caregivers. And so that is an interesting thing, and a stereotype that, and really, a stereotype that needs to kind of go, or an expectation that needs to be a shared responsibility. And so I think that's really important. And those are things that we want to voice. Now, I will say this, there are a lot of men out there who are caregivers, and absolutely will not discredit. No, very similar to somebody saying in the chat box, we're not discrediting parents either. It's just, there is it's the role piece of it, but anyone who steps up to be a caregiver deserves the kudos. Like, it is hard. And so, but typically it is a female dominated industry. And then the last piece, because we're on our screen, we've got everybody on the bottom. The last piece is pay. Jay, do you want to be paid something? Yeah. Well, it's not going to happen. And so unpaid caregivers really support, if you think about how much money goes, how that builds into the economy, how much unpaid caregiving and the monies that would be that, like, if we had to support that as a benefit, as salaries, it would be astronomical. And so I think that it's really important to recognize that, I mean, our sister is not getting paid some extra stipend. She does live with our mom. And so that covers, honestly, like kind of room and board. But even then, I mean, there's not a lot of funds. And so you're not living like you just won the $2 billion, lottery, basically. Thank you.
Yeah.
Paid by exactly. What is that? So
Yeah.
honestly, I think 60% of family caregivers are also working full-time.
Yeah.
And so we are working full-time. Hi, we work full-time and are doing this right now.
Yeah, we're having a great time.
This is a really fun time. So I think that's really important to remember that. And that's where I just think it's important. All right. So we're moving right along.
Yeah. We got it.
Look at this. We're totally.
Oh my gosh. So how we got here. So meet Jim and Connie. That's how we got here. All of us.
That's really literally.
That's our parents. So this is kind of the guts of who we are and truly like how we got here and why we're here. What brought us to this decision.
Yeah.
To do what we're doing now. Our mom, when she was 48, she started showing symptoms of something wasn't right. And at 52, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's. My parents, as I've said earlier, they were high school sweethearts, married at 17 and 18.
Right after graduation.
Right
That's
after
important.
graduation.
That is very important.
Yes.
Mom would want to say they
Yes,
graduated
they
high school.
But we came on, she was 19, 21, and 23. We're all 2 years apart. And so we all grew up together. Like I said, 52, my mom was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And my dad, at 6'3", he helped her hide Parkinson's. For those years, she hid behind him. She's only 5'6". And so no one really knew. We kind of hid those symptoms. She was confident. She was fine. She didn't fall. She didn't shake. She was good. And so my dad retired at 55. She had been diagnosed. And 3 years later, my dad said, you know what? I'm 55. He's worked with unions all his life. It was time to retire. And so that was great. He was going to take care of her. We were going to have a great life.
Yep.
At 58, 3 years after he retired, my dad kind of broke the plan on us. And he was great health, 6'3", playing softball on the 4th of July, and he died. That was totally not in our plan. He was our peacekeeper. He was holding it all together. Mom was supposed to die first.
Yeah, that was our plan.
That was our care
I hate
plan.
to say that. It sounds really harsh when we say that, but it's true. Like mom was supposed to die first, and then dad would continue because that's what we thought. We thought that's what happened with Parkinson.
Yeah.
It's what we thought because he was healthy.
Yeah. And so we know my dad had a great sense of humor, and he would love when we say it was very inconvenient that he did this to us.
Yeah.
So at 58, I still hear him say in my head constantly when mom, because she's difficult. Oh my Lord. I think everybody will probably say, difficult, that, your care, that person that you care for, they can be difficult. There's your honesty, and difficult's kind for me. But he always says, and I hear it in my head, girls, just be patient. Jay, just be patient. And so he left us, and he left us with mom. And so over the see Angela laughing. So over that was in 2011 until 2019, for 8 years, Natalie likes to say we kind of side-eyed mom. Like she was in Tennessee, I was in North Carolina, Natalie was in Virginia.
She was living with independently.
Yeah, she was, we had moved her out into a smaller apartment. We had sold the family home. So we had caretakers that would come in, spend the night. She was okay. It was all right.
Let me just clarify that. She coordinated individuals to come and be with her, and they typically resourced, and this is going to be something I know you guys feel, they come from the church, they come from friendships. These individuals would come from a variety of places, and they were paid, but I saw the underpaid comment, preach. $25 to stay with her, to spend the night with her at night, because we all lived in different states, but she wanted to live independently. And I will tell you, it got to a point, unfortunately, that it became harder and harder for her to find people to stay with her. And we know that as caregivers, it can be isolating and lonely, but for the individuals who are living that experience, that it can be very lonely as well.
Right.
And so unfortunately, the help became fewer and fewer unless you were going to be able to pay for that, and the resources weren't necessarily always there.
Yeah, readily available. So she did for 8 years, and we were like, oh, she's good. She's good.
Yep.
Mom's great. Our aunts, everyone else, our extended family is there in Tennessee, which is where Mom is. And 2019, I was working on a piece of land, and I got a call from my Aunt Jane, and they said, you need to come home. There's something, your mom is really ill. And to break that out, it was something that they were protecting us from and not sharing, which was, your mom is having significant delusions. She's talking to people. There's someone planting a bomb in her house. You know, if you have any familiarity with psychosis, delusions, anything like that, then you completely understand just how bad it can be. What started that was failure to communicate on neurologists, Parkinson specialists. She had overdosed on dopamine and various drugs. And so one of the police, I guess, there in the small town that she's in, they found her wandering the streets at 2 a.m. So we went from mom's fine to Parkinson's psychosis. We had to have her admitted in 2019 to a psychiatric facility, and the bottom fell out. Our world, our caregiving world, it collapsed. Like, how did we get to this point, guys? Like, where did this all fall apart for us? So we had her admitted to Shands in Florida, fighting with insurance and all of that to get there. From 2019 to 2022, where we are today, we put her in an assisted living facility. We brought her back to Greensboro, which is where I am. She stayed in that first assisted living facility for 4 months. She became agitated and aggressive several times. Medication is hard in assisted living facilities. They work hard. Those people are, you can't discredit them. There's too few of them. There's too many patients, the regimen that they need. Everybody wants their medicine.
Well, and don't forget they're underpaid.
They are underpaid.
Yeah.
So everybody wants their medicine. So she lasted there for 4 months. I thought I was going to go crazy because she wanted to see me every day. And I was also working, a full-time job. And so my aunt said, bring her home, bring her to Tennessee. This is where all our family is. We moved her to Tennessee, January 2020, and COVID hit.
I'm ready for that one.
Yeah. So she lasted in that facility because of COVID. They weren't asking anybody to leave, I feel like. And during that time, we got back into that same, she was agitated, very aggressive. And a lot of it had to do with medication and just hard to get care. And by April of 2022, we were on that verge of, we had been asked to leave again. And so we say that to say 2 facilities we had been asked to leave. And if you've ever been, we say, mom's been kicked out of 2 facilities. So
it wasn't an ask. It was like, we don't think this is the right facility for your mom.
Yeah.
It was going to be able to care for her. And I'm like, I know what that is, because I run group homes.
Yeah,
That's what I say is like, this is not the right best fit anymore.
Yeah.
We can't meet their needs. And we're like, that's because she showed a rear.
Yeah. So that's that gets us to April 2022. But in that same time frame, we also had another big change that was occurring, and that was with Natalie and Jason.
So I'm always mindful of our time. So with Jason, Jason had some medical issues going on that had been ultimately misdiagnosed, and it was missed. My husband is 55, and what we found on February 14th, he had finally went to an ENT doctor, and they said, we think you have cancer. That's not what you get on Valentine's Day. And on March 4th, they confirmed that he had a type of head and neck cancer. The interesting part, and the part that's so hard to literally absorb, is that he has never smoked and he barely drinks. So he does not fit the stereotype or the profile for a head and neck cancer. So moving forward, we did a ton of stuff here in Virginia. We're in Southwest Virginia, so we're in a smaller area, but we still have access to good medical care. But what we found is, as you're going to hear Aunt Jane's name, you'll hear her a lot in our podcast. Aunt Jane is like, woo, she's our
rock
go-to.
star.
She's a rock star. So she had said that my uncle had a prostate cancer and they tried a different type of radiation. She goes, you need to check out proton therapy. And proton therapy really focuses on killing the bad cells, the bad cancer, and not killing all the good cells. And so when I brought it up to our doctors, they very much dismissed it. And I'm like, oh, I don't think you know me. We don't dismiss ideas. And so ultimately we went and got it. I went down like the rabbit hole of like, okay, proton therapy. And then I thought, who's the best for head and neck cancer? And it happens to be Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City. And so we went up there for a second opinion and God helped us get there. I'm going to tell you right now, we are faithful individuals and we believe that everything it's his plan, not ours. And so we went up there and through prayer, because we kept praying and saying, we need to see the answer. We got to see the answer. We found out that we could change our insurance 2 weeks before we were scheduled to go. The insurance that we got had a New York medical facility in network in Virginia. And I don't even understand how that even happens. Blessing. And then when we went up there, they said, oh, did you find us from the clinical trial? And we said, I don't know what you're talking about. We just want to know if we can get this cancer's treatable. And they said, oh, well, yeah, it's very treatable. And we actually have protocols. It's been going on for 5 years that you can half the protocols, the treatment. So instead of 35 radiations, he can get 15. Instead of 3 rounds of chemo, he can get 2. And it's half. And so we made the decision to move to Virginia or to New York City, which was huge. Didn't know how we were going to do it, but we did it. And then Emily, notice who's not here. Remember, we told you she's the volunteer. She volunteered and said, I will come and live in your home with our children, which is our fur babies, because Jason and I have a bulldog and a beagle. And they are just as important to us as children. And so we moved to New York. And we moved to New York for 2.5 months while he received treatment successfully. And she cared for my animals like she would care for anything else because she's a total volunteer. And so then we come home in July and we then have something kind of pop up. I'm thinking we're all normal.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jason and I are working to get back to some normalcy. And then,
yeah. So we moved mom, of course, to the new facility, number 3. And by July, it was suggested that we take her to a different facility. We would have her moved out by August 1.
and she had gotten placed there when?
April.
Yeah, she didn't even
April.
make it as long as the
Yeah.
others.
She didn't like her roommate, and she had tossed a little coffee on her.
It wasn't
although
hot. It was fine.
It was not hot, and that was all we got. Well, it wasn't hot, it was warm, and she had smarted off to me. So you feel like sometimes with that person you're caring for, you have to say, Mom, you can't throw coffee on people.
We didn't think we would have this conversation.
Yeah.
Mom, please do not
Throw coffee.
throw coffee at your roommate.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get kicked out. And then they call us and they say, we had to submit an incident report to the state of Tennessee. And I'm like, well, I understand how that works.
Yeah.
And the good thing is it was cold. I'm sitting here having to justify cold coffee.
So we had to move mom again. And so we've been kicked out of 3 facilities. And so at that point we were like, life has got to change, guys. So what can we do? And so moving her out, we had to figure out what we could do. And that's when our volunteer stepped up, Emily, and said, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to care for mom. And we found a way. And it was hard.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot. And I think that's what brought us to what we feel like is so necessary to share,
Yeah.
to make everything different, because things have to change for people to succeed. It's so hard to care these days. Logistically, it's a nightmare.
So there were some things in order for us to be able to get mom back into the community, living in a home setting, we needed to do some different things. And I'm going to tell you, these are the things that we learned along the way. And these are painful lessons. And it took 3 of us to figure this out. And we all have our different skill sets. What we found out, whether it was my mom or Jason, is that funding and benefits matter. I always call mom to remind me of my blood type. And so I'm always like, okay, I don't pay much attention to my benefits. I just want to make sure they work when I get them. But I never really understood the value of benefits and selecting your plans until Jason went to New York. And the fact that right now, and that all the bills aren't submitted, there's $385,000 in claims for his cancer treatment. They're not all the way in. And we are in network in Anthem. Thank you, Anthem. They get a shout out. They are in network, and our max out of pocket is $7,500. Friends, we have only paid $3,800 to date for his cancer treatments. And he got proton therapy, by the way. Proton therapy itself is normally around $130,000 for that type of radiation. So that was a big deal. Then when we talked with looking for mom's stuff, the funding was very difficult to try to make it work because she lives off dad's pension.
Yeah, what's left with it. And what we continue to find with communication was that if you didn't ask the right question, you didn't get the answer. So
like nobody was just giving it to us.
So someone had the answer, and it might have been that person I was talking to, but if I didn't ask the question, if I didn't formulate it correctly, they just didn't give it to me. It was like they were withholding information. I was like, was it a secret that there was this choices program out there, and that if I set up a QIT, I qualified for that?
I don't even know what a QIT. Like, you didn't even know what that was. We don't even have that in Virginia.
Yeah. I'm like, what is this? And I qualified for it.
Oh, we totally
qualified.
And
so, and then the other thing was the rabbit hole of Google and the internet.
It's like Satan's playground.
Oh my gosh. And we are so thankful there are so many resources out there, but they're not consolidated.
Yeah. And so you just, and if you don't know the language in the care economy, because in mental health, language is so important. But I think that every industry has the certain words, and by not having the certain words right, that's where communication became a problem. And that's where resources, you won't find the right resources if you don't, like, I feel like they just need to dumb it down a little bit more, use normal people words.
Yeah.
So with that, because we're mindful, we're wrapping it up, people. All right. So we
got a fire. We got a passion. We got mad.
I don't know if you can tell, but we are like, we've got to do something, and we need to be a part of the solution. We are, number one, we can't be the only people who feel this way. Overwhelmed, at times very isolated, mad, angry, asking God, why did you give this to me? And I'm like, I know, Lord, I'm going to be better. And I'm going to tell you, for me, confessions actually started with me. I shared this need that I had to help others because I feel like this is my witness. I feel like the blessings that we experience are meant to be shared with others so that they can get through this as well. And that's where hope comes in. Really feeling like validating people's feelings, validating their concerns, providing them education, and being that person who is like, oh my gosh, thank you for just helping me. I feel so much better. And so we decided and so I talked to JJ and Emily, and they were like, I said, I think I want to write a book. And so I can tell you right now, I am actually writing a book. I had started this before, and I don't think even Denise knew that we had done this. We don't have it on the website yet that I'm doing this. It's a little bit of a secret. So it's on the internet now. That's a lot of pressure. But and really about my journey and me being a reluctant caregiver. It's not that I didn't love Jason. It's that it's my own self-doubt and insecurities and feeling like I'm going to fail him in the worst time of his life, and kind of being pissed that I'm here doing this. And so like, I excel. That's what I want. I want to excel. And I am not a cook, Jay.
I know.
She can validate. I do not cook. And I'm like, my husband has throat cancer basically, and he can't swallow. And he's looking to me to say, what can you fix me? And I'm like, nothing. I can fix you nothing that you're going to like. But anyway, so from that, we decided, JJ and Emily said, yes, we feel that way too.
Absolutely, because there's so many opportunities to share information with people. And so Natalie said, I really think that we can talk to people because our goal, we should talk because we talk a lot. And so with the podcast idea came, well, if we have a podcast, well, we should have probably a website. And then we were like, well, gosh, we should write a blog. Yeah,
some of the stories, the banana pudding story, people, I'm going to tell you right now, there is nothing worse than your mother making banana pudding at 2 a.m. and she uses the milk that we budgeted for this week. Okay. And Emily wakes up at 6 a.m. This is the long story short, wakes up at 6 a.m. and there's food all over the kitchen because she had forgotten to remove the stove eye knob. So she couldn't cook something. She knows not to cook. There was banana pudding stuff remnants of where she had tried to cook it all over the kitchen and in the floor.
So from the blog idea came, well, we could do a newsletter.
We thought, and then we should do a resource guide.
Absolutely. And then we
How
thought,
will people find out about us?
I know.
We should have on social media. And then we thought, you know what? We should do some training while we're at it because we love to train.
So that's kind of our goal of giving people hope. We just want to share information that what we found so interesting is that once we started talking to people, I've talked to Denise, we talked to Kim Whiter.
Oh my gosh.
But everybody that we've talked to, once we found the right resources, everybody wants to share in this industry.
Collaborate.
And
like, let's talk. I'm like, okay.
We wish we had found these people when we were struggling. And so we think that there's so much opportunity to get information out to people. And that information is where the hope is for us because we were drowning. Yeah. And I think it's just about making sure that information, it's all about information that's going to help any of us survive in this. And it seems to be that simple, but it's like, if I can just get a hold of it, if I can just find a main place. And I hope that with us trying to get all this out and be a single, somewhat of a focused resource by all of the people, the contacts that we have, by all of us feeding in together, that's how we'll make a difference. That's how we'll bring hope.
And so, we decided, and I think all of us can relate to this. If not us, then who? Yep. And if not now, then when? And so in everything we do, and I know I didn't mention the membership, but our little photos are under there. We also going to do a membership, because why not? And we thought we'd all do it at the same time. So everything that we do, we want to make sure that we relate, we educate, we inspire, and that we laugh a little. And so with that, we're going to offer any questions. Okay. So I know we've got oh Lord, 2 minutes. Shock. You could have given us an hour and a half, but I'm going to push on to this because we do want to ask you guys for a couple of things. Because I want you to put your questions in the chat box because we're going to respond since this is open. But Jay, why don't you tell our friends?
So if you will just text sisterhood to 22828, we have the resource guide that we're going to send out to everybody. It's easier for us to do it that way. But there's also something really interesting that came out 2 days ago.
It was like 2 days ago.
It was 2 days ago from the Canadians.
The Canadians were on it today.
They were really good.
We liked this.
So it's from the Canadian Center for Caregiving Excellence, and it's called An Approach to a Better Caregiving Landscape.
It's technically for Canada, but we thought, why not?
The ideas and some of the information, it's amazing.
Really
it's a white paper. It's a research topic, but the information is amazing.
We're going to share the link.
We'll share the link. We'll send it all out to you. But this information, if we could all, it's something that it's appropriate internationally. And there's just so much information out there.
Absolutely. So we're going to do that. And then the last but not least, don't forget 22828. I know you're all immediately texting right now. It's like the voice.
This is the most important part.
This is the Okay. And this is the most important part. So our podcast, here's the secret. It's going to be launching. We're dropping it January 24th. So we are going to have a huge initiative because we want to be like, I don't know, Mel Robbins and all the people who are already like naming. We want to try to go for the #1 podcast on
In
that
caregiving.
day. Just in caregiving. Well, we can be the #1, Jay.
Well, we want to push caregiving to the
Well, that's the whole
forefront. Yeah.
And so
Okay, there you
anyway, so we want to be, because what we're looking to do is we want people to hear about it, and it starts the discussion. It starts normalizing it. It makes it less uncomfortable.
Right.
And so the more we can normalize the discussion and make it less uncomfortable, the better.
Right.
So here, follow us on social media and we will follow you back. We are shameless. We're all about collaboration. We want to know how we can work together to extend this message. And thank you. This is my answer. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for
True,
letting
thank you.
us. And look at that, band. 11:50 right there, Denise. Nailed
Okay.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys
JJ and
again.
Emily. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break. And when we come back, Jacqueline is going to help us with journaling.